Hello and welcome to another Blackstone Fortress video here at Really Crush. Today we're going to be looking at the new dreaded Ambull expansion for Blackstone Fortress. Now I've sorted that out, I'm going to go put the model together and I'll see you in a minute. Ah! Right, and now that thing's sorted out, let's have a closer look at the box. So here we are, the dreaded Ambull. This is, as you see, the first expansion pack for Blackstone Fortress. Let's pop that to one side. I've taken the liberty of taking it out of the box already. I did allow Saviour Anarchy, who, thank you very much to him by the way for making this possible, did allow him to unwrap everything. So first of all, what we get to is the dreaded Ambull, which is a short little pamphlet. It gives you sort of a combination of the lore, the background book in the Blackstone Fortress, and the Precipice book, but essentially just for the dreaded Ambull campaign. So that's really nice. There's some really good lore about what an Ambull is and what the quest is all about as well. We've got the Lair of the Beast, which is the equivalent to the strongholds. So there's the map and the hostile groups and the rules for things going on in the Lair of the Ambull there, and a new event table at the back and what happens when you win. There's also, and we'll get to this, but there's quite titillatingly a little envelope there, just like the one in the Blackstone Fortress box that we don't open until we've completed the quest. Then we get to the Ambull and boarworm infestations. So this is both the assembly guide and the 40k rules there. And then on the back you've got the painting guide and the points values. We'll come back to that, so I'll put that to one side. Saviour Anarchy has not popped these out yet. I'm not going to do it for him. But these are, there's a new, essentially new ship, and we'll show you how that works, I'm sure, at some point. Lots of Ambull eggs and things like that to put on the hexes, and because the Ambull quite likes burrowing, we've got some burrow things there as well, and Ambull spore markers. Right, just accidentally knocked one of those out. I hope that he'll forgive me. I'm sorry.
It's fine, man.
Okay, get this bit out of the way first. So this is the envelope, which, just as we had before, Lair of the Beast envelope, do not open until the Ambull's Lair quest has been completed. Now, interestingly, that sounds like there's more than one thing in there. So maybe it is a Primaris Lieutenant. I don't know. And onto the main event, which is the cards that we add into the rest of the game. So we've got, let's have a look, some more Archaeotech with various different values, and quite helpfully it's got that cool little Ambull decal down at the bottom corner there, so we know that these are from the expansion. Let's see. So yeah, there's some cool looking Archaeotech in there that isn't just the triangular stuff that we had in the main box, all with different values, and some of it does different things as well, rather than just functioning as money. Then we've got the encounter cards, Now, from what I've seen so far, these get put into the main encounter deck, so you'll still be fighting Rebel Guardsmen and Chaos Space Marines, things like that, as well as occasionally having to face the dreaded Ambull itself. And there's also some brand new cards for the exploration deck, some combats and challenges. Haven't had a very close look at these, but already I think our favourite challenge is this one, Run. It's just a corridor. You start in the middle of it. The exit is at one end, and the Ambull is at the other, and you just have to get out. So that looks a heap of fun and full of tension, because the Ambull's got quite a nice movement rate on it. So if you don't happen to get high enough on the initiative track, it's going to catch you very quickly. Speaking of which, we have the Ambull himself, and he comes with two cards. We've got the Ambull Enraged and the Ambull, and this is the equivalent of the Ambull becoming inspired. But we have, so looking at this then, as I say, it's got quite a good move value of 3, 16 wounds, 16. Its size is huge. It's the same size as the Chaos Lord. He's got enormous mandibles and claws, which is exactly what you'd expect. And the saving grace here is that it only has melee attacks, but he rolls 2d8 when attacking. Each time an explorer or hostile suffers a wound or grievous wound from an enormous mandibles and claws, it also suffer an additional wound. So you could end up taking a grievous injury, which is bad enough, and then another wound on top. It's got a hulking creature. When it's activated, it takes 2 actions, one after the other. Roll on the behaviour table for the first action, then take it. Roll on the behaviour table again for the second action, and then take it. In addition, it never has to halt if it moves into a hex that is adjacent to an enemy. So normally, if you had, say you were playing with Amullin's Shadow Guide, she's got a movement of 3. If she was moving into a hex or next to an enemy, even though she's got a move of 3, if she'd only used 1 hex of movement, she would have to stop and use another move action. The Ambull does not have that problem. And going back to that run scenario in the challenge deck, the fact that this thing can effectively move twice is incredible, or move and attack is just vile. Then you've got Symbiotic Healing. When it's activated, if it has any wound counters next to it, remove 1. If there are no wound counters, but it does have a grievous wound next to it, remove that as well. Instead, oh, how do you kill it? And driven off. Once the damage caused to the Ambull equals or exceeds its wounds value, the Ambull tunnels away to recover from its wounds and is removed from play. Place the Ambull location marker on the hex which it was removed from. That is the one I just knocked out, which is this lovely oval one here, and I'm swearing at everybody on camera by using my middle finger to point with. But so you place that. For all rules purposes, the Ambull is treated as having been slain. If the Ambull is returned as a result of a reinforcement roll, instead of being deployed adjacent to a portal, it must be deployed as close as possible to the Ambull location marker as you can there. The Ambull location marker is then removed. And you can return the Ambull to the board on a reinforcement roll of 1, 2, or 3. So no matter what you roll for reinforcements, if you get any reinforcements at all, the Ambull is going to turn up. And there it's got all of its lovely behaviour there. The only ones that are different are Tunnel, which is remove it from the battlefield and place the Ambull location marker, just as we talked about there. For any remaining actions during the turn are lost. The next time the initiative card for the Ambull is reached, don't roll for the behaviour table. Instead, the Ambull is placed on the hex as close as possible to the explorer that is closest to the Ambull location marker. And once the Ambull has been placed, remove the Ambull location marker and roll for the Ambull's second action. So its first action there would be to unbury itself, and then it can go on hitting things, and it's going to be as close as possible to the nearest explorer, so it might well be next to them and ready to hit them. and then swipe, make an attack action against each explorer that is adjacent to and visible to the Ambull. So remember the bit at the beginning of the first Lord of the Rings film, The Fellowship of the Ring, where Sauron turns up and just batters everybody away with his huge mace? The Ambull can do that as well. It's about as hard to kill as Sauron. Loving this quote at the top here as well. Roar! That's a direct quote from the Ambull. This is the Ambull enraged. So when it becomes enraged, it's rolling 2d12 instead for its attacks. And they've still got that same rule where you will suffer an additional wound. So it's going to do 2 wounds minimum. Hulking creature, it takes 2 actions, as we talked about. Protective. It always treats an explorer carrying an Ambull egg as the closest explorer. And symbiotic healing, which is what we've had before. See if there's anything on the back as well there. Now, Saviour Anarchy, who's had a look over this earlier, pointed out that instead of anywhere that it would fall back on the previous behaviour table, so if we look on other and the second and third results there are fallback, on the enraged, those 2 are in advance. So that's how angry Mama Ambull is. She won't be falling back anytime soon. And why would she become angry? Well, Ambull, she is already an Ambull. We have the boreworm infestation. Now these are the larval form of the Ambull. They have their vicious jaws, and they're only using a d6. They're not anywhere near as nasty as Mama. But, I need to point out as well that the enraged Ambull, going back, has 24 wounds. 24 wounds. That's 8 more wounds, so half again as hard to kill. And remember that it's healing a wound every turn as well. Okay, so we've got the boreworm infestation. It's got a d6 to hit, nowhere near as dangerous. But when it attacks, you make 3 attack rolls. Carry out each attack one at a time, one after the other. The target chosen for the second and third attacks must be the same as the target of the previous attack, or in the same hex as the target of the previous attack. So similar to the Urgles. You re-roll reinforcement rolls if a boreworm infestation reinforcement roll fails to arrive. So they're almost guaranteed to turn up a lot of the time, and they're hard to hit. So if they're in cover from an explorer, they're not visible because they're so tiny. I wonder if Rain and Roush should have that ability as well. Let's see. So these guys, as I say, they only have 3 wounds. Let's flip that over. They've got some of the same abilities to tunnel, so that works the same way. Take them off the board. And place it in the same hex as the discovery marker that is furthest from the explorers or other hostiles. So these guys are quite cowardly, as you might imagine. They're little babies. They're not like Big Mama Ambull. And you double the hostiles' movement value when they take this action, which is consume. Move the boreworm infestation towards the nearest discovery marker. If it finishes its move in a hex with a discovery marker, remove the discovery marker. So what that actually does, let's see, then remove any wound markers counters next to the boreworm infestation. So it runs forward and gobbles up your Archaeotech, which stops you from collecting all your cool bits and pieces to go and trade in at the shop, which is a bit of a pain. So you are still going to want to kill them fairly quickly. But if you start running off with Ambull eggs and killing Ambull, their boreworm infestation, the Ambull larvae as well, you have to face Mama Ambull, who's enraged. And it's worth noting as well, by the way, that when she's enraged, that's twice as many wounds as the Chaos Lord Obsidious. And I haven't had to face him yet, but I reckon he's pretty hard to kill. So there you go. That is the dreaded Ambull box. All in all, I think for the £35 that Games Workshop are charging for it, that's brilliant. Really good. You've got, obviously we showed you how to stick the models together as well earlier. So you've got quite a large, the Ambull is very large and imposing. I could possibly have lived with some more ball worms, maybe another 2. But again, it's 35 quid for a model and the rules to use it in 2 separate games, and I'm fairly certain there's going to be an expansion for Kill Team that lets you take it as well. I would be very surprised if there isn't. I think it would have to be a Kill Team in and of itself. It is worth noting on the keywords that the Ambull is unaligned, so whilst you can take it in 40k, you really ought to do so probably in open play, because having that unaligned keyword means that it will foul up the special rules for pretty much every other army out there. So if for whatever reason you wanted to put it in your Eldar army, you won't be able to use your Craft World abilities. The Gene Stealer cults, which is exactly where I would have thought it would go. Again, you're not going to use any of your cult special abilities or your cult ambush ability or anything like that. So the only other way I can think to use it would be if we went back to the Rogue Trader days and actually had a third player running sort of random things like the Ambull on the board. And I know that there's been some suggestions of sort of plants and stuff like that to run on Death World, so maybe that's where we're going with this. But I don't think it's going to be turning up in any armies anytime soon, except as a plot piece or just as a curiosity. But definitely worth including in the Blackstone Fortress. And yeah, definitely worth picking up. So thank you once again to Saviour Anarchy for lending me his box to show it off to you here. And I'll see you next time. Be kind to yourself and each other.
Hi there, thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and if you like, share the video, and check out the links below in the description, which lead to my Patreon, to Teespring, where you can buy awesome bearded brushstrokes merchandise, and check out the Twitter and Instagram, as well as Facebook. See you next time.